The National is just about here. It's right around the corner, and today I'm excited to share with you some of the tips and tricks and tactics I tend to use that I've had success with over the years at the National. So let's get right into it. Welcome to the most passionate content for card collectors on YouTube and possibly the whole entire internet. As usual, I am your host, Jake Roy, 90s B-Ball Cards here, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, X a little bit, and TikTok and Threads, chilling there. It is the summer. My kids have been busy. I've been busy too. So, yes, today I'm answering one of the questions that I get asked the most, and I see a lot of other people get asked, is about what cards to bring and how to bring cards to the National. So I want to talk through some of the solutions that I have used and what I have found has been the most successful for me. I'm always willing to change if there are better solutions, so let me know down in the comments as we go through what are some of the tips and tricks that you use. If there's something that you think that I could improve upon, I'm always open to suggestions. But let's get right into it. All right, trying a little bit of a different angle. So you can see the box we've got it here, kind of like a faux leather, magnetic top. It is pretty firm on there, but you can slide it open. These do ship flat, so there's some adhesive on the inside. There's some pretty good directions. But you can see how cards fit in there. We've got PSA slabs, we've got some SGC slabs, CSG, some raw cards as well. So just wanted to kind of highlight that, something bigger, whether it's a bigger card or a ticket, you can probably fit it in, laying it down like this. It gets a little bit lost. Not something I usually keep in there. So, that's what I usually keep in here is these kind of graded cards. Regular size, thickness doesn't really matter in terms of, jersey cards or whatnot. But the regular size. So anyway, so let's go through some of these cards. We can talk through what I bring, why I bring it. So the first one we've got here is this Bob Cousy auto. So this is one, it's not PC. I like it. Not something I'm really trying to get rid of. So you can see here some of the stickering that I usually try to do to provide a little bit more information outside of what's on the slab. So you can obviously see, the information there. But I say pop one, none, and the arrow up, so none higher is what that's supposed to indicate. I don't know if it's necessarily clear to everybody that's looking at it, but that's what I have. And then I have a price point on the back, so you can see this one I had at $320. I think if I was going to be going this year, probably have it at about $350. I tend on a card like this to have it priced fairly high. It's not the rarest card in the sense that you can find it online. They're probably going to go for like $100, $150 raw. So having it graded, getting the 10 on the auto is pretty good. Again, it's a good grade on the card overall. There are some that, have just the card itself graded that, you can get that a little bit higher. But yeah, so that's one of those things. Rare-ish. I like to bring that. This is one that I have duplicates in my collection now, so I'd bring this with me. PSA 10s tend to move fairly well. I've not brought this in the past. I did obtain the first copy that I had at the National in Atlantic City, so then I graded a couple of copies that I had in my collection raw, and one of them got a 10. So happy to move one of them to another collector. So something like this, I haven't priced it out. I think I've seen these going for about $250, so I'd probably put about a $250 ask on it. And I have some wiggle room from there. I tend to try to price things a little bit aggressively in terms of trying to, move things, but, I'm not overly eager to move that one. This one, I believe I have not brought this in the past, if I remember correctly. So this is one I've pack pulled. Number 25, Vince Carter, PSA 10. Last I checked, this was a pop one. I haven't seen any of the Vince Carters sell recently, so there's really no comps. Judging off of what I've seen some others go for, I've seen like Rasheed Wallace and Alonzo Mourning sell for I think around $150. I've seen a Kobe Bryant sell for about $400 or so. I think Vince Carter would probably sit in the middle of those. I think it's probably going to be a little bit higher than Alonzo Mourning or Rasheed Wallace, but it's definitely going to be lower than a Kobe Bryant. So, with that in mind, I would probably price this at about 170 or so. Again, I pack pulled this years and years ago, so I don't have a ton into it. But again, it's something that you never know. You know, you never know what's going to happen at the National. All right, this is one that I have brought with me in the past, Orlando Cepeda Auto. So you can see the stickers here. You know, so this is still, to my knowledge, a pop one without any graded higher. We've got the card grade and the auto grade. That's my preference. It is serial number to 50 as well, so not something that sells terribly often. I think raw copies tend to go for right around $50 or so. You know, there's not a ton of graded copies of these. There's not a ton in general, but you know, there's some other Orlando Cepeda autos out there. But he's a player that's passed away, so there's not new autos coming out. When, you know, kind of what's signed is out there is going to be out there. So you know, on the back here, I had this listed with an asking price of $200. You know, I'd probably reduce that slightly at this point in time. I don't see a ton of demand for these, but you know, maybe 150 or so, maybe 170, 75, something around there. You know, trying to get some dealer pricing. This doesn't fit in my collection. I got it in a lot, you know, so I'd like to move it. I don't have a ton into it. You know, again, I already made my money back on that lot, you know, a long time ago. It's a cool card, but you know, something that I haven't gotten any bites on the last time I brought it. So we'll see next time. All right, the next one here, something you might know me a little bit more for. So this is the Triumvirate Illuminator of Antonio Daniels. So this is a rookie year card insert, super short print, you know, less than 100 copies in general, and this is a PSA 10. I did have 2 PSA 10s. So I've had 2 copies of this card. I think both of them I got graded and both got PSA 10s. One of them I moved to a collector trying to put together the set. And the other one I've got here. So I believe last I checked, those were the only 2 PSA 10s. I'd have to double check, you know, obviously I would do that research before I put a bag and the stickers on it, so I would have that noted on it as well. So these are pretty rare. These are pretty niche also, so not every dealer or collector is gonna be interested in something like this, but it's a really cool one. You know, so I'd probably stick a price. What would I price this one at? 150, 170, probably something like that. You know, the last time I saw one sell, I think it was a PSA 9. I don't know off the top of my head what the pop is on a PSA 9, but I think I saw that one sell for $50 or $60. You know, so PSA 10s, depending on the card, can be 2 to 3 times. You know, again, sometimes they're more, sometimes they're less, depends on the card. So, yeah, that's probably where I put that one at. This one's an interesting one. This, I had 2 copies in my collection. I still have one of them that I will not be dealing away. So this is one that I had as a kid. The 2 I graded. One got a 9, one got a 10. Keep the 10, or keep the 9. I moved the 10 and get more into my PC. So again, you can see the sticker here. I've brought this in the past. I think that pop is not accurate. I think it might be up to a pop 7 at this point. But these are pretty hard to come by. You know, PSA 10s again, Iverson. Stuff that's going to move for a 90s dealer. Didn't move the last time. So I had a price of 170 on this the last time, and I definitely did get some interest. It ultimately didn't move. You know, I had some other stuff that people were interested in, more so dealers mostly, or who were kind of poking at this one. So, you know, if I was going to go back, I'd probably have this at like 150 at this point. You know, again, having that PSA 9 already in my collection, and having had this since I was a kid, it's not something I need to keep. So I don't need to, you know, be too high on the price. Trying to price these at prices that would be advantageous for dealers to obtain. You know, I try to have dealer pricing on my cards there. So that's where I'd be at that one. I have not brought this in the past. I've had this for a while. Scott Mitchell, Essential Credential. I graded it. I had gotten it raw, graded it, got an 8. Not the greatest grade, not the worst grade. You know, one of those older thick slabs for not a terribly thick card, which I really don't like these slabs. But I had gotten a basketball player in my collection, so, you know, I'll move the football player until I can get a penny or somebody that's more core to my PC. You know, but these have gone up quite a bit since I got this. I think probably like $100 or so, maybe. Yeah, I think probably $100 or so is what I'd be asking for on this one. You know, again, you never know. This is one of those that's a very niche. People like quarterbacks, right? So that's good. Scott Mitchell, a little bit more known for being a Detroit Lion than a Baltimore Raven. You know, So if it catches somebody's eye, you know, these credentials are definitely getting more popular. But 58 of them. I've seen some raw copies sell. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I think $100 is probably where I priced that one. Another Triumvirate Illuminator. This one got an 8 for Ron Mercer. A little bit bummed on that grade. I think it's, you know, I don't want to be one of those saying, oh, it got undergraded, but, you know, I was a little bit bummed. We'll just leave it at that. So I haven't brought this in the past. I think this one, boy, this one I would probably price it closer to $70. I don't think I'd go as low as 50. You know, but $70 is probably where I'd price this one. Trying to move it to another collector. I don't. This is one that a dealer might, but it'd have to be a pretty specific dealer. It being, you know, not a 10, not a 9. You know, somebody would have to know what they're looking at, and not every dealer is as informed on the 90s as others. The 2019, I'm sorry, certified mirror green. This one's numbered to 5, number 4 out of 5. Jamal Murray did get a PSA 10. You know, so this is one that I got in a giveaway actually, and then graded it myself. I got it raw, graded it. Happy to get a 10 on it. So this one I don't have a ton into. There are some other copies of other players that have sold in PSA 10s. This is a Pop 1 to my knowledge. Last I checked, there's only 5. So, you know, a PSA 10 isn't going to add a ton. But I haven't seen any even raw copies of this card sell. You know, so it's not a jersey match. Like, there's a lot of things that, you know, it's going to have to take the specific type of person to be interested in a card like this. So I think I'd probably price this one around $70 as well. Maybe I'd go down to 50, maybe. You know, but again, trying to be competitive with those sticker prices that I'm having on there. I could ask the world for it, but if I want it to actually move, I want somebody to be interested, I've got to be reasonable with those prices. So I think 70 is probably the right spot for that. An interesting one here. This is the Majestic of Penny. You see, I've brought this in the past. Pop 2, none higher. None have sold publicly. This is a PSA 9. Good grade on this for sure. It's not the most expensive card in the world. You can probably find these raw for about $5. So I would bring it. I'd put a $50 price tag on it. See if it moves at all. You know, not something that I'm necessarily expecting to move. But you know, you never know. Graded cards can be funny at the National. Some people can really get you know, all hot and bothered for them. So I'd bring that. Another niche one here, 2005 Donruss Diamond Kings of Gaylord Perry. So Hall of Fame heroes. This one is, you know, it's marked here, but you can see it on the back. It is serial number to 10, number 9 out of 10. You can see I have the price tag there for 50. You know, got a 10 on the auto, a 7 on the card. I think if I looked at the population, I think there is a pop report that I could look at on SGC now. I don't think there was when I brought this, but I think it's a Pop 1. You know, so these are really, it's an interesting set where they had some with jersey pieces, they had different colors with different numbering. These are kind of a cut auto, but it's got the hollow foil, so it does pop a little bit more. So, you know, this is one of those guys that, you know, if it was a vintage card of this player that was autographed, a vintage dealer would be all over it. It's a little bit of a mid-modern card of a player that is a vintage player. So, you know, it hasn't moved the last time I brought it, but it, you know, it's a cool one. It's a rare one, and I don't know what the Gaylord Perry market really is, but $50 I think is reasonable for this one. You know, bring it. You never know. Another SGC one here. We've got the Chris Bosch certified gold, number 25. This one I got in a giveaway as well. PSA or SGC 9 is what the grade got on it. I've brought this in the past. I had it at $50. I'd probably keep it at $50. You know, a rarer one. People like gold. People like foil. This one can pop in a dealer's booth. So this is something that, you know, I would expect eventually. It'll find the right home, right? 2012 being that first year where you got some of those big rookies with Panini products. So a cool one that I think would attract some eyeballs. Some different type of stuff here. So this one is one that if I was going, I would probably crack it from this slab and get it graded with PSA. Hoping for a 10, could get a 9. You know, but this is a really cool one. You know, just like a crazy refractor type of finish, lots of angles, lots of gold, Shaq. You know, fairly rare. If it got a PSA 9, it would probably be about $50. If it got a PSA 10, I don't know if I've seen any comps. So I'd hope for the best. Hopefully it gets that 10 from PSA. But this is one I definitely want in a PSA slab. CSG slabs, in my experience, just don't move very well. And if I'm trying to get something that's going to be attractive to a dealer, I've got to kind of play the game. So this is something that I'm happy to get this in my collection if this is a PC piece in the CSG slab. But it's if you wanted to move with the National, having a PSA slab, maybe an SGC or BGS, CSG in my experience just doesn't move very well. So you got to give the dealers what they want, right? Another one, I've got it raw. I would get this one graded. I've brought it in the past. You can see I've got a $70 sticker on this. That would have to be higher based on the last few comps. I think I'd probably, if it was raw, have this at $100. But I'd probably look to get this graded before I'm going, and hopefully it gets a good grade. But probably a 9 is what I'd be targeting with this one. So another one, I would get this graded in advance. Another one, similar category here. We've got the reciprocal of Kobe. This one I would probably get graded as well. The serial numbering to 750, it's not the rarest, but it's also kind of gotten a little bit worn down. So don't know how this would grade exactly. So this one I would debate grading. If I didn't grade it, I don't know if I'd bring it. So this is kind of like on the cusp, right? So I think this was an interesting one to share and show. Similar one here. So this is a platinum medallion. These do get a good amount of attention. Not as much as the 97s, but the 98s are good. And Danny Fortson. So number to 99. This is another one I would get graded before I brought it. So this one, if I remember correctly, I think I had this one. Did I have this one at the last National? I don't think I did. I think I might have had this when I was at a show. So I had $50 on this. So again, I'd look to get it graded. $50, depending on the grade, would probably be where it would stay. But it's one of those that the grade might not make it worth more, but it just might make it easier to move. And again, bring it to National. If I'm bringing it with me, I want it to move, right? I want to get more cards and bigger cards in my collection. And here are some that I'd probably keep raw, right? I like to have a good mix of raw cards. So we've got the Spectrum Star Power Iverson on the back. It is numbered to 250. So this is a cool one. I have not brought this with me. I don't know what I'd price this one at. Maybe 150, 170. But if I'm trying to be a little bit more aggressive, again, a little bit more advantageous for dealer pricing, I'd probably be closer to the 150. See if it moves, right? I think that would probably move at 150. Another niche one, but a good player, the 1999 Topps MVP promotion, short printed to 100. I'd probably keep this one raw. I don't see any advantage to grading it. It might move quicker, but it's not one that I see graded. I don't think this would grade terribly well. It's not the best centering and such. So putting it in a slab might just bring up more questions. So it might not be worth it to take my time and money to put it in there. But this is one, boy, where would I price this one at? Second, I think, was it Peyton Manning's second year, 99? So I'd probably be at like 120 on this one. Not a lot of sales information on this one. Some earlier sales dating back a number of years. So who knows? Peyton Manning, football dealer, might be interested. And then along the same lines, I've got the 2001, the same. So this is another short print. I would probably keep this one raw as well. And I would probably have the price a little bit more aggressive. A little bit later in his career. I'd probably be at, $70, $75, somewhere around there on this one. Kind of an interesting one. I don't like bringing stuff in top loader. They can get a little bit kind of lost in this case. But this is a thicker card, right? It's got 5 pieces of jersey. It's numbered to 25, all from the New Orleans Hornets. You can see Jamal McGlure was on the Bucks at this point. So I don't know. I think he was on the Hornets. The season before, so I think this patch is a Hornets patch, and he had moved to the Bucks when the set came out, if I remember correctly. But anyway, Chris Paul's rookie season. You get some other fun players: J.R. Smith, David Westby on the back, Brandon Bass, and then Jamal McGlure, former All-Star. So this is one being Chris Paul's rookie year, numbered to 25. I'd bring this, and I'd probably price this around $50, I think. But you know, again, not something I enjoy bringing. I like to have stuff in the card savers, you know, so we can talk about that now with this next one, almost at the end. I like having it in card savers. They save space, right? They're not as thick, so I can fit more cards in this box. And you know, they also kind of sit up around the same height as a graded card, and it also is easier, you know, if I'm dealing this to a collector or a dealer who's looking to grade it, you know, with the on-site grading, you know, this is kind of ready to go for them, so it keeps it easy for them. They don't have to re-sleeve it and reholder it. They can just take it as it is and bring it right over if that's what they want to do. So you know, making it easier for people is always going to make it easier for me to make a deal. So you know, back to this card, this Finley, the Quantum Silver, these number to 100. Again, this is a collector specific card. You know, number to 100, it's a rare one for the 90s. Michael Finley's not the biggest name, you know, so this one's probably going to be geared a little bit more towards collectors, but again, I'd probably keep this at about $50, keep it pretty aggressive. And then the last one we've got here, before we talk more about the box, would be the Game View. Never Compromise Game View, with the game film there for Kevin Garnett. Flip it over onto the back. These are numbered to 100. Another one I'd keep raw. This is a little bit more of a collector card, but you know, being Kevin Garnett, a dealer could be interested in this as well. So I would also price this one at about $50. You know, so this box, you know, I usually keep 2 of these in my bag. It kind of disperses the weight a little bit. The other box I keep supplies in, right? So I keep, you know, penny sleeves. I'll keep like kind of an empty clam case I don't have here, but if I'm going through a dollar bin or something like that, I like to have that. If it's a raw card, I'll throw it in there. The penny sleeves are nice if I'm trying to sleeve something up. Maybe I open some packs and I want to sleeve stuff up. You know, I'll keep some of the card savers, just some, you know, 1 pack of those in there. And then I'll also have cards in here. I tend to like to, you know, kind of give cards to friends that I know I'm going to meet up with there. So I'll have some cards in here in team bags for friends that I'm going to meet up with, so that way I can pull, you know, the supplies box out and find those to give to my friends. So that's, you know, why I have 2 of them, and I make sure to have some sort of a markation on one of them so I know that I'm pulling the ones out with the cards when I'm at a dealer booth or trying to make a trade with another collector. These, if I remember correctly, are about $15 on Amazon. I did also notice recently there are some BCW ones that are, you know, basically the same size. I think you can get a 3-pack for about $30, so about $10 a piece. I think they're a little bit longer. I think this is a little bit less than a foot long. The BCWs, I think, are about 15 inches long, so hypothetically it might make sense for me to invest in some of the BCWs. I could fit more cards in. You know, this that I went through is 25 cards, I think. I tend to like to bring with me at least 50 cards. I think that gives a good volume that is manageable for me. It's manageable for somebody to look through when I'm, you know, pulling this case out, and I think that's a good number. So if I, you know, next year as I'm gearing up, if I don't have 50 cards, I'll be scrambling a little bit. But I tend to, my buying habits tend to change a little bit in preparation for the National, so I make sure that I have some good stuff with me to trade. But yeah, I really like these. I've had the Dome box in the past. I don't know if people are familiar with those anymore, but you know, the Dome boxes were great. They don't have this magnetic top, which I really like. It's secure enough, but also the height on these is a little bit taller than the Dome box. The Dome boxes didn't fit SGC slabs very well. I have to kind of like angle them a little bit, but this just keeps it easier, right? The Dome box, I'd have to take the top off and then put it underneath and hand it over. This one I can just hand over. I can open it right up, close it up easy. It's secure in the bag, so it's not going to open up. You know, so I really like these. They're inexpensive. They do the job. The only downfall that I would say is when you're putting the adhesive on, it doesn't stick well to start. So what I would do is I would put the adhesive together so it's like this, and then I kind of like lay it on its side and I have it weighted down, right? Put some books on it and stuff, so it just kind of pushes down on it to make that adhesive stick, and you know, leave it that way overnight, 48 hours, you know, the longer the better. But you can always, one of the things I've done in the past is on these ends put some duct tape, right? I'd open this flap, put some, you know, piece of duct tape or something that just kind of goes right over it. And that's one of the things that can help it stay together a little bit as well, you know, if you're worried about that. So this is kind of what I've used that works well in a backpack. I don't like bringing a Zion case with me to a show. I like to have 50 cards. I like to keep the price point to $50 and above. I'm not afraid to have cards worth, you know, a few $100s. I'm not afraid if I had something that I wanted to trade that would be worth $1,000 or more. Not afraid to bring those as cards. You know, so that's the type of price point that I think is good. $50 tends to be a little bit harder to move in my experience at the National, just because that's a price point that not every dealer is looking to hold inventory of. But it's an easier price point to move for collectors, right? If it's a good collector card, you know, again, something like this Michael Finley. If you find a Michael Finley collector, $50 is an easy spend for something that somebody's been looking for at a trade night or something. You know, so that's you're trying to play that balance, right? All right, so that's what we've got. So to recap, what I like to bring cards that are worth $50 and up. I like to have a good mix of raw and graded. The graded cards, I like to have PSA and some SGC. I leave the other ones at home. I like to have the stickers with the prices on the cards. I like to price them aggressively, a little bit below eBay comps, because we are doing cash, trying to make deals with dealers, all of that. And I like to make sure that I have cards that are rare and or of good players, right? So rare, sought after, good players. If you can get both of those, or if it's not a very sought after player, make sure it's rare and or sought after. So those are some of the guidelines. Again, let me know down in the comments your thoughts on those. And then that case that I shared with you, I'll try to have a link in the description. I don't have any affiliate stuff with Amazon, so none of that's going to be going into commission into my pocket. You know, so it is what it is. If I can figure out how to get that link in there and it brings you to the right product, feel free to go ahead and shop until your heart's delight. So that's what we've got today. Let me know down in the comments any feedback on any of these solutions. If you have better solutions, again, always open to it. So if you're new here, please consider subscribing, hit that bell icon so you don't miss any videos in the future. We've got new videos dropping once or so a week as time allows. We've got looks into my PC, occasional collector interviews, occasional grading reveals, occasional show reviews, and so much more. Thanks. We'll talk later.